azt csinálom, hogy nem fogom nagyon meghúzni a csavart, vagy egyáltalán, és akkor így majd tudom forgatni. Nem látok semmit, felszemet. Nedvesek a tükrök. Mindegy, majd leszárad menet közben. Egy tükör elég itt balról, az jó. Na, mit szóltuk, így milyen a kamera? Kéne egy kicsi motorkarja, hogy forgassa automatikusan 360-ban. Így lassan forogjon körbe, pásztázza. Az ablak homályos, úgyhogy nem sokat lehet most látni ki. De hadd lám, mikor leszárad, milyen lesz. És így pont jó, mert így a mikrofon is közelebb lesz a szájamhoz. Nem kell hangosan beszéljek. Amíg szárad az ablak, addig fordítsuk erre. No! Furcsa, most ott fent van. Tegnap éjjel olyan meleg volt, gyerekek, közel 80 fok volt, esküszöm. Az mennyi? Celsiusban 26? Na, hozok-e mindent? Iratok, telefonok, váltógagya, meg ing, kamera, kaja, pia, víz. Ja, úgy látszik, minden itt van. Az ablakot rátettem, hogy olvassa, fújja is a vizet. De túl nedves dolog. A kapcsolószekrényben vadászik. Na, de direkt bemenjen 3-asból, 1-esből, 3-asból, direktbe. Direktbe, izé overdrive-ba. Ja, de nem volt. Szóval ha erre fordítom, akkor az oszlop egy kicsit oda fog útba esni. Száradt tele még nem teljesen. Jobbról levő ablaktörlő nem menjen, úgyhogy arrafelé nem sokat fogtok látni, csak homályos vízes ablakot. De ez jó, így nem szorítom meg, se lehet forgatni. Mi? Kicsit rárébb, hogy az ablakon is lássatok ki. Na, a hírek mit mondnak?
With a regular waiting list of 24 people, librarians are adjusting to provide more tech support, and Urban says there's growing discussion about whether to restrict content.
I know within the library world, there's a little bit of eyebrow raising as far as, you know, how will you regulate this and, you know, what kind of limitations will you place on it.
While Spring Hill puts filters on computers within the library, mostly to block pornographic websites, they've not done the same with hotspots, which are used off-site. Really, the bigger trouble, like books, has been getting them returned on time. For extra motivation, Urban increased the late fee to $3 per day. 2 hotspots haven't come back, so she shut off their service remotely while holding out hope to see them again.
You never know. Things show up. I mean, books, other things, they can be lost for... I've had things that are lost for 5 or 6 years that get returned.
For Morris, who took one cross-country, there were no glitches. He told Urban that when he brought it back, he wasn't sure if he should toss it in the bin with the rest of the books.
I might have got a late fee. I returned it after hours, a little bit of that. But I secured it very well, so...
You do have stickers on the boxes now that say "Read the best." It's a learning process for us as well as for everyone else.
The librarian takes calls from other cities about what she's learned. She tells them that at $10,000 per year in data cost, the batch of hotspots isn't cheap. She argues they fit the evolving role of a library, which has always been to connect people to knowledge. For NPR News, I'm Tony Gonzalez in Nashville.
Jövőget fel a napot arról. Szép csendesen. Hogy van az, hogy egyik ablaktőrön men, másik nem?
It's Morning Edition from NPR News.
Support is provided by the Naples Daily News and naplesnews.com. Stories, photos, and information on a new, easier-to-navigate website built for the way people read news throughout the day. naplesnews.com, putting your world in your hands.
You can listen to your favorite public radio station or any local FM station on your smartphone for free. For more information on how to activate it, go to freeradioonmyphone.org.
Good morning, I'm David Green. A 7-year-old in New Jersey says she was just trying to call her dad, but instead called 911, and she got a visit from the police. Isabel LaPeruta sounded so upset the dispatcher sent an officer to her house. It turns out she had knocked over the family's elf on the shelf, and she was worried the toy would tell Santa she'd been naughty. The officer promised to tell Santa it was an accident if Isabel promised to use 911 only for emergencies. It's Morning Edition.
From WGCU News, I'm Amy Tardif in for John Davis. Fort Myers officials started installing security cameras in the downtown area this week. The News Press reports the city plans to install more than 45 high-resolution cameras by the New Year's Eve celebration in downtown. More than 15,000 people are expected at the event. This effort comes after the ZombieCon shooting in October that left 1 person dead and injured 5 others. The cameras cost Fort Myers more than $400,000, but officials hope they will help with future downtown emergencies. A top administrator at the State Department of Agriculture is taking the reins at the Florida Association of Food Banks on a mission to fight hunger with new tools. Margie Menzel reports.
Robin Safley, a nationally recognized leader in school nutrition, is the food bank's new executive director, responsible for winning support from the public and the legislature. She says fighting hunger is her passion.
We're really having to redefine what poverty is. We can't forget those working poor, people who do have a full-time job, maybe multiple jobs, and are still having a hard time meeting the needs of their family around food, and they may not qualify for government assistance.
Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam says Safley expanded the summer feeding program for kids by 42% in 3 years. She's also made a priority of using data to fight hunger. Currently, 3.3 million Floridians are food insecure, meaning they don't always know where their next meal is coming from. That's 17% of the population. I'm Margie Menzel in Tallahassee.
Red tide tilt still persists along southwest Florida's coast. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission released a report Wednesday saying the toxin is in waters along Lee, Collier, Sarasota, Charlotte, and Manatee counties. This update is based on satellite images and water samples. Forecasts show the little net improvement of boom waters in southwest Florida. FWC says it will release an updated report Wednesday, December 30th. More information about red tide is on FWC's website. Today will be mostly cloudy with patchy fog this morning and highs in the upper 80s. For Christmas Day, partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers in the afternoon and highs in the upper 80s. Right now it is 72 degrees out at 7:33.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. Good morning, I'm David Green. Well, this has not been the easiest year for the European Union. First, it had to deal with Greece going bankrupt, and then a flood of migrants from Syria and elsewhere in the Middle East began overwhelming its support system. And finally, now at the end of the year, a threat that the United Kingdom could be getting closer to leaving the EU altogether. Britons will vote in a referendum likely next year about whether they want to stay or go, and here's Robert Smith joins us from London to talk about this.
Anglia kilépik az EU-ból.
So just a little bit of history of the UK. I mean, since the 1970s, they've been part of the European economic family, right? Why are they talking about leaving now?
Yeah, you know, they've always had this sort of weird relationship with Europe and the UK. I mean, they were always skeptical. In fact, they joined the European experiment back when they had a bad economy in the 1970s. But ever since then, they just haven't been certain about it. They decided not to use the euro. They still use the pound sterling here, much to the consternation of much of Europe. And they're always grumbling about the billions of pounds they have to pay out to support the EU. And so David Cameron, the Conservative Prime Minister, who's very smart politically, when he was running for re-election, he said, you know, we should just have a referendum, right? Let's let the people decide whether we should be part of Europe or not.
Which sounds good for politics. It's your decision.
Oh, absolutely. It got him re-elected. But then, of course, he has to actually do it. He has to do it.
If he goes through with the vote next year, as we're expecting, I mean, any idea what the result would be? If sort of say it happened right now, like where the polls are?
Well, here's the thing. When Cameron promised this, most people probably would have voted to stay in the EU. But since then, the UK has started to become very concerned about internal migration. The population of the UK has been spiking because of people coming in from the rest of Europe. And then they see on the television screen all of these Syrian Middle Eastern migrants pouring into Europe. And there is a growing fear here that the UK will become overwhelmed. And so, because of that fear, basically the polls now show it neck and neck. About half the people might support leaving Europe.
Has David Cameron actually weighed in himself in terms of where he wants us to go?
Yeah, he supports staying in the EU, but a lot of his Conservative Party members want to leave, so he's playing this super careful game. Last week he went to a summit of European leaders, and he said to them, you know, we got to do this referendum thing, so maybe you can sort of sweeten the pot for the UK. Maybe you can give us this special deal. And one of the things he wanted from these European leaders was a way to slow the flow of migration into the UK. And he said, how about this? How about we limit benefits for immigrants? You have to live in the UK for 4 years before you can get any sort of assistance.
So he's kind of dangling this as a threat with other European leaders in a way.
Yeah, I mean, to get something that the UK public will approve of. And, you know, I gotta say, it did not go over that well in Brussels at this meeting because the whole concept of the EU is that every country is equal. There is a free flow and migration of peoples around Europe. And so, you know, a lot of these people coming into the UK are from Eastern Europe. And Eastern European leaders said, this isn't fair. You can't discriminate against our people. If British workers get benefits, then everyone should get benefits. That is the point of the EU.
If this actually happened, if Britain's actually voted to leave, this could be a big deal and have serious implications, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of business people are worried here in the UK because a lot of companies are based here to have access to this giant European market. I mean, the EU is the biggest economy in the world. You want to be part of that if you're a business person. And then there is this worry about the impact on Europe. If they were to lose the UK, this major member of the European Union, other countries might start to think, well, wait a minute, like, I want a better deal, and if I don't get my deal, then I'm going to have a vote, I'm going to leave.
All right, NPR's Robert Smith talking to us about what could happen in Britain next year, likely a referendum on whether Britons want to leave the European Union. Robert, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's turn now to Snapshots 2016. This is what we're calling a series of audio portraits of people we have met out on the campaign trail, people...
Hallottad, miről beszéltek? Hát azt mondja, hogy a jövőben, 2016-ban Angliában lesz egy referendum, amiben az emberek fognak szavazni, hogy akarnak az EU-ba maradni, vagy ki akarnak szállni. David Cameron ezt megígérte az előző választásoknál, és most be kell tartsa, és jövőben meg lesz az a szavazás. És akkor, mikor ezt megígérte, akkor valószínű, hogy a szavazás oké lett volna, hogy mindenki azt mondta volna, a többség azt mondta volna, hogy maradjunk, de azóta ugye problémák voltak, megnőtt ugye jelentősen Angliának a lakossága, 1 millió vagy 2 millió magyar dolgozik Angliában. Ugye nem csak magyar, hanem mindenhonnan Európából, de főleg Kelet- és Közép-Európából. És utána ugye most jött a szíriai migráns probléma, és most a felmérések szerint ugye 50-50 arányban van a vélemény, hogy maradjunk vagy menjünk, lépjünk ki az EU-ból. Valószínű jövőre az még csak rosszabb lesz, tehát még többen ki akarnak lépni. David Cameron mellé számított egy kicsit, és most menjen Brüsszelbe, és alapul Brüsszelbe, hogy valami mézes madzagot adjanak, valami, amivel a választókat meg tudja győzni, hogy maradjanak. És ugye arról beszélt, hogy legyen egy olyan kivétel, hogy addig nem kapsz semmiféle állami támogatást Angliába, amíg tehát az első 4 évben nem kapsz, tehát legalább 4 évet ott kell legyél, és csak utána. Tehát Brüsszelnek ez nem tetszik se, a többi európai országnak se, ugye? Mert arról kellett volna szóljon az egész EU. Nem menj ki, tehát elütlek, ha nem látod. Összeköttelém be egy kicsit a konyautó. Ugye arról kéne szóljon az EU, hogy egyenlő akkor minden ország, nem? Eljössz ebbe az országban, másik abban, mindenhol dolgozhatsz, mindenhol egyenlő jogok. Úgyhogy ja, érdekes lesz az a jövő év. Hát biztos megspekulálják az EU, meg a brit politikusok valahogy elsuflizzák, megjátszodják. Na, de mit szóltok? Én nem jósolok a nagy jövőt az Európai Uniónak, látva, hogy mi folyik. Na jó, kezdett az ablak leszáradni, remélem már többet láttok a kamerán. Hallgassuk tovább a híreket.
And Dr. Scott Crater for their leadership giving and support.
Finemark National Bank and Trust provides banking, trust, and investment services at offices in Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, and Naples, and is dedicated to building deep personal relationships and offering proactive advice and service. Finemark thanks listeners for their support of WGCU.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. The U.S., British, and French embassies in China's capital are warning their citizens to be on alert today for possible attacks against Westerners. BBC's Steve Evans reports.
Today's warning is directed at Westerners who go to an area of Beijing full of big brand-name Western shops. The warning seems to follow specific information.
Nem kéne lenne fordítsam a kamerát. Most is szemmagasságban van, de attól félek, hogy az út nem esik bele itt, ahol a kocsival megyek, hanem csak ott kicsit túl felfelé, túl sok égbolt esik, és nem az egész út. Mit szóltok? Adnál most egy kicsit lenne, beállítom. Így jobb-e, vagy ez már? Na, ez túl lesz a kocsinak a műszerfala, meg motorra, aztán régen belé fog esni. Nem, hát azt hiszem így jó. Így nagyjából vízszintesen van, akkor már egy picit az óra lennebb van. Oké, itt balra fogunk térni a Collier Boulevardon.
Again, targeting the magnificent mile in hopes of following up last-minute Christmas Eve shopping.
They're protesting last year's fatal police shooting of a teenager, Laquan McDonald, who was shot 16 times while carrying a knife. I'm Dave Mattingly, NPR News in Washington.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. How will history remember 2015? As I think back in 2015, it's really Syria as a magnetic north that makes all these other stories line up around it. Ray Suarez and Christian Amanpour will join us to look back. That's next time on Here and Now.
This afternoon at 2 on WGCU. You're listening to Morning Edition on WGCU, a member-supported service of Florida Gulf Coast University. In Lee County, there is a crash on San Carlos Boulevard at Loma Linda Drive in Fort Myers, with blockage at that intersection. Today will be mostly cloudy. There's some patchy fog around. Highs will reach the upper 80s. Partly cloudy tonight with patchy fog towards morning and lows in the upper 60s. Christmas Day will be partly cloudy with a slight chance for showers in the afternoon. Highs reaching the upper 80s. And Friday night partly cloudy with lows in the upper 60s. Saturday mostly sunny in the morning, becoming partly cloudy with highs in the mid 80s. It's 73 degrees at 7:45.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from the Embry Family Foundation, working to expand awareness, explore possibilities, and elevate consciousness through philanthropy and community building. From Jones Day, an integrated partnership collaboratively providing legal services for more than a century. 42 offices, 5 continents, serving clients as one firm worldwide. Learn more at jonesday.com. And from Americans for the Arts, at americansforthearts.org.
From WGCU News, I'm Amy Tardif in for John Davis. 40 people from all over the country gathered in Fort Myers recently to compete in what's known as bike polo. Like polo, but not on ponies. The tournament was held in the spirit of giving to benefit Toys for Tots. WGCU's Tara Callaghan reports on the evolution of the sport and how it has grown over the past decade.
3, 2, 1, polo!
On elementary school tennis courts, a game with roots dating back to the 1800s is being played. But these participants are on bikes instead of horses. They've also ditched the wooden mallets for more durable polyurethane. Fort Myers Bike Polo started in 2009. This is their annual Secret Santa tournament. Donated toys are their entry fee.
It's neat to give back to the community with this fun time.
David Hutchinson has been playing bike polo with Fort Myers for about 6 years. He says the premise of the game is fairly simple. First team to 5 wins.
It's 3-on-3. There's a ball, you have your mallets, and there's 2 goals. So it's similar to hockey, but on bicycles and on hard surfaces, not ice.
There are also no fixed positions. Players seamlessly alternate from goalie to defense, keeping their eyes fixed on the orange ball being smacked from one side of the tennis court to the other. There are a few major rules. Contact is restricted to mallet, bike to bike, and body to body. The ball must be shot into the goal using the blunt side of the mallet, and don't dab, a term used to describe a player whose feet touch the ground. A player who dabs must ride center court and touch their mallet to pre-designated poles, or, in this case, a chain link fence, as a form of penalty. Hutchinson says the evolution of bike polo has been drastic.
It started out as just nobody took it super seriously, and it's evolved into a competitive sport.
Modern bike polo emerged in the early 2000s, created by urban bike messengers in their spare time. The game has quickly evolved into a co-ed, fast-paced, and competitive sport played in more than 300 cities and about 57 countries.
Fort Myers is kind of known for being a fun tournament kind of city. There are a lot of strict rules that we're not worrying too much about that.
Except Charles Brown is worried about safety. He came with his bike polo club from Gainesville. He's one of few players wearing a full face mask. It's a lightweight red and black mask originally made for hurling, an Irish game resembling field hockey. The name of his bike taxi company, I'd Ride That, is written on the back. He's also sporting elbow pads, hip pads, and knee pads. His mallet and wheel cover are decorated in Charlie Brown's signature yellow with black zigzag design.
It makes a cool sound too. Just coming up, it's like, whoa, I kind of dig it.
Brown says the wheel cover catches wind a bit more and can help block the ball or someone's limbs from getting through the spokes. He says the bikes and protective gear are all about personal preference. A close call motivated Brown to guard his grill.
I was wearing a regular helmet, and the mallet hit the very front of my helmet, just in, centimeters from my face, and that could have been my nose, and that would have been a really bad day.
Brown says some players still make their gear in the do-it-yourself spirit of years past, like crafting mallets from ski poles and PVC. But companies now create gear, bikes, and mallets specifically for bike polo.
DIY is cool, but having it being super lightweight and strong and last is also really cool.
Danny Wood, a player from Tallahassee, says the game has definitely changed since he started riding in 2004.
The game is becoming a standardized sport, which is pretty exciting. It's a less physical game. There's still a little bit of people running into each other, but it doesn't happen in every game like it used to. Every team is co-ed, which is really cool. There's also all women's tournaments, which are even cooler.
Casey J. Swazinski has been riding with the Jacksonville Club for 3 years. Her teammates during the tournament are from Gainesville and Pensacola. She says being a female player in bike polo is nothing to be intimidated about.
I ask women a lot of the times, when do you feel the most beautiful? And my answer is when I'm covered in bike grease and dirt. And when I'm on my polo bike, even if I'm playing terribly, I feel the most beautiful and I have fun, I'm smiling, I'm laughing, I'm with friends.
Swazinski says bike polo of years past was an exclusive community and not very open to new riders. Clubs today are now inclusive and encourage new members of all skill levels. She hopes the future of bike polo remains welcoming. A team dubbed Teama Colada, comprised of riders from Kentucky and Tennessee, won the Fort Myers tournament, which collected 50 gifts for Toys for Tots. For WGCU News, I'm Tara Callaghan.
Biciklipóló, hallottátok-e? Milyen mész a biciklin, s ütöd olyan, mint a hoki, csak biciklin mész, ütöd, de akkor csak félkézzel tudod fogni, akkor majd érdekes lehet.
Like us on Facebook at WGCU Public Media. Follow us on Instagram at WGCU Public Media. And follow us on Twitter at WGCU.
Balra serülünk.
At Amy Tardif, AMYTARDIF. I am Amy Tardif, in for John Davis. Coming up on the program, the Fab Four's music catalog will be available on major streaming services starting today. Mostly cloudy with some patchy fog. Highs will be in the upper 80s today. Tonight, partly cloudy with more patchy fog toward morning and lows in the upper 60s. And on Christmas Day, partly cloudy, a slight chance for showers in the afternoon and highs in the upper 80s. It's 73 degrees at 7:52.
Alejandro González Iñárritu won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, also Best Screenplay for the movie Birdman.
Na, mit szóltok? Milyen így a kamera? Szerintem elég jó lesz. Könnyű forgatni, tudom 360-ba forgatni Garmára. Ugye ne felejtse már megflippolni 180 fokba fejjel lefelé, mert most a kamera fejjel lefelé van, de normálisan. És ennyi. Hú, szeled az ablak hátunk. Hol kell itt térülni, a rég nem voltam. Azt szerint. ...7:52. 8 előtt ideértem, az igen, általában kések 5 percet, 10-et. Hát egy kicsit olyan szűk az utcacska. Főleg mikor ilyen nagyobb bacska autó van. Isuzu NPR-ja, ezek a fine gépek még, de drágák mindötök. Kicsi fine 4 hengeres dízelmotorról. Szép napunk lesz, úgy néz ki, tisztul ki az ég. Gyűj fel a nap. Hol vagyunk? Itt vagyunk. Oké. Lefestette a kapujat feketére. Van, hogy a kód, amit adott, még működik-e a kapuhoz. Rég nem voltam már itt. Működött a kód. Where? Right here? Here's good? Here's good?